I'm Mark Pitchers, wader wearing, tea drinking, caffeine intolerant, beard trimming carp freak. I've been an angler for over 30 years and caught carp from waters far and wide, big and small. For me, it doesn't matter where, as long as the challenge is exciting and inspiring. But in this series, the target is out of my control. 3 challenges will be put forward on Fox's Facebook page. Then it's up to you to have the final say on what mission I take on. I've faced some incredibly tough challenges so far. Have you been drinking de-icer again? Some of which I've smashed out the park. This one for the win. Others have dealt me a devastating blow.
I literally have no words.
But I'm still here and ready to pick up any gauntlet that is thrown down. This carp freak is not giving up without a fight.
Yes!
This is the challenge. What's up, carp freaks, and welcome to the challenge. Can't remember what number it is, I have lost count, but the one you voted for, new format, by vast majority, is called Back in the Day. And it says, let's go back to your early years as a carp angler, late 80s, early 90s, and employ methods, baits and tactics that you used or were popular at the time. Your rigs must be made up from tackle available at the time you first started carp fishing, and your bait must be one you used from back in the day. The target is to catch 2 fish, including 1 20-pound plus on 2 different old school tactics. Now, seeing as this challenge has a old school vibe, I thought I'd pick a venue befitting to that challenge. So I have come here to Cuttle Mill. This is a place I have always wanted to fish but never have. It's a venue steeped in history and was doing 20-pound plus fish before I started carp fishing, and was probably made even more famous by that legendary carp fishing video, Carp Fishing with Des Taylor, which was my personal favourite video, probably of all time. So I've already had a walk around. Oh, no way. No. So I've already had a lap of the lake and had a good chat to Alan the bailiff. He's given me a few pointers. We've seen a few fish fizzing and I know roughly where I want to be. I absolutely can't wait to get started. So let's go and get the kit out of the van. Yeah, I need to compose myself mentally and physically for this one. I'm gonna get a little bite, I'm getting a bit of speed. Here we go, a little bit of a jog. Here we go. Come on, here we go. Come on. Get up, one, yeah! So this is the pontoon swim, which is the very same swim Des Taylor fished on that video. And that's the sole reason I've gone in this peg. Watercraft, location, nah, doesn't even matter. I haven't even had a walk round. only gone here because Des went in here. That sounded really sarcastic, but it wasn't. It wasn't meant to be sarcastic at all, because growing up, watching that video was massively inspirational for me. At the time, I think my PB, I'm not even sure if I caught a double figure carp when I first saw that video. So seeing Des catch doubles and a few 20s, it really did fuel the passion. But also, as I've been studying this peg, I have seen a bit of fizzing going on over between these two islands to the right of the swim. I've been told that there's been quite a few fish getting caught from the centre of the lake. It also commands a huge amount of water. There's only two anglers on, one's to my right, one's on the opposite bank. All this water to my left, there's no one there. And also I'm told this left-hand margin is quite deep and very productive, and I think it did a couple of fish last week when temperatures were really cold. So it's looking very encouraging, and I can't wait to get started. I don't really know a great deal about the history of the water. All I know is, as a kid starting carp fishing in the late 80s, early 90s, Cuttle Mill was a place that was somewhere I was reading about in magazines, in books, and obviously saw it in the Des Taylor video. So it was a truly inspiring place for me. I know obviously in the 70s and 80s it was an amazing 20s water.
You know, the stories of when it was days only, but everyone used to have a big social in the barn by where you park the cars, and there used to be queues up Cuttle Mill Lane to so that people could be on the gate as quickly as possible. Everyone was queuing up, waiting for their shot at a 20 or even a 30 pounder.
Back in a time when a 20 pounder was a seriously big fish. It was kind of like front page news, really, and was almost a benchmark for a carp angler to try and reach.
It's just a really cool place to be, and definitely well cemented in part of carp fishing history is Cuttle Mill.
So it turns out that getting the components to tie rigs I would have used in the late 80s, early 90s was much harder than I thought. I did manage to track down a few things on eBay and on the internet, but when I actually rang up, they were out of stock. But I've managed to get quite a few bits that maybe it's not exact matches, but will certainly do to good effect. Now my hook link would have probably been something like Dacron. Back then it probably would have been like quite a thick black material, or even white that I used to soak in tea overnight, or coffee or something like that to try and dye it a dark brown. It used to stay brown for about half an hour and then just wash out. But couldn't get hold of any of that, but I've got some brown Dacron here. Now hooks, I used to be a big fan of the partridge carp hooks back in the day, particularly the Jack Hilton or the Kevin Maddox ones, but again I just wasn't able to get hold of any. But I have got some here that will certainly do. They're certainly not my preferred wide gape beat point style hook, what I would normally use. Oh, this is sounding just waffle. Right, go. Instead I've got some patterns here that were also available at the time. They're certainly not my preferred wide gape beat point hooks that I use for most of my fishing today, but yeah, they'll do. I've got some hard plastic beads. I think all my rigs had beads in them for whatever reason, even if they weren't even needed, they always had some beads there. What else have we got? Some amnesia, which is a stiff nylon material. This was black back then. They brought out a clearer version later, but when I was starting out it was just available in black. I used to also use just normal mono hook links, something around £8, the Maxima. That was probably something that featured in my rigs a lot. Shrink tube, Again, it was mainly just black shrink tube available at the time. Leads, well, there weren't really any coated leads available. So either silver or had a little bit of black paint which quickly flecked off, so I've managed to get something along them lines. Probably wouldn't have used anything over 1.5 ounces back then. These days most of my fishing's done with 4 ounce leads to improve the hooking potential, but back then I'd use really lightweight leads. And I've got some float stops as well, little rubber float stops that I used to use to create like a shock effect on the rig. So that's all the components. As you can see, there isn't really much there, but this would have been enough to tie me up a couple of presentations that would have caught me plenty of fish 30 years ago. So let's see if they can do the same now. So I'm just tying on a size 6 barbless hook to 12-pound Dacron hook link. Now ordinarily I'd do this with a knotless knot, and one of the advantages of using a knotless knot is you can get your hair length right dead easy. You just put your bait on and you're tying your rig, you know exactly what length that hair is going to be. But I wouldn't have done that back then. Instead, I'd have tied it using a spade end knot. So I'd tie a spade end knot, leave a long tag end, then tie a short hair, short loop on that, which is a bit fiddly, and because you haven't got the bait on, you don't know exactly if what the hair length is going to be. So it's a little bit of guesswork, and luckily I think I've managed to get this perfect first time. Never leaves me, never left me.
Here, we've got a present for you.
Here we go. That's heavy.
So when this challenge was selected, and when I knew that we were going to be doing, going back to Mark's old school ways. I know the challenge was only really specifically about his rigs and his baits and the methods that he was using back then, but I thought, why not go out and try and get him some old school kit as well.
Ooh, this might just have saved me after losing a bag stick.
After loads of trawling through the internet, I found a website called vintagecarptackle.com, and it was absolutely perfect.
Oh wow!
That is an original 1990 Fox stainless steel rod pond.
Wow, this is the sort of thing I'd have seen in the magazines at the time and been absolutely drooling over. That's awesome. Thank you.
I think you'll like how close together the buzz bars are as well. They're proper dinky.
Well, they are as well. I thought they'd be like that wide, but awesome. Oh, what's in the little skate shop box? No way. I was talking about these as well, wasn't I? Oh, they're epic. They're the original mini microns, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when these came out. I never had, I had optonics, but I always wanted a set of these. Is there 3 of them, like?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's them. We've got here. Are these Mark 1 swingers? Yep, I had these. Original Mark 1 swingers. That's epic. Happy days. That's so cool to see them. Yeah, it really is so cool to see them all again. It kind of made me think, you know, back in the day, this would have been my absolute dream setup, and I was now fishing with it. They are proper loud. Oh, they're going to annoy everyone, aren't they, them? I'd actually be very tempted to buy a set of these Micron minis. Not to even use them, just sort of sit and look at them and reminisce.
There are people who do that, actually.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? So here's my finished setup. It looks a bit naff, I guess, by today's standards, but I have every confidence it's going to work for me. You can see I've got my little 1.5 ounce silver bomb there. This lake is pretty silty, so I'm not too worried about the lead. That's going to sink into the silt and be totally hidden anyway. I've got 2 little plastic beads there. The reason that I had 2 was it creates this sort of boom effect. It pushes the hook link, the swivel, away from the lead to prevent it from tangling around the swivel on the top of the lead there. The hook link, that's the 12-pound Dacron hook link going down to a size 6 barbless hook, and I've got a little bit of lead wire wrapped around the hook link with some putty moulded over the top. The lead wire is basically just there to give something for the putty to bite onto, and I'm going to bait that with a little homemade 12mm pop-up, and then we can get it out.
You got the tangle?
Yeah. Yeah, them 2 beads didn't work. I told you I need more beads. So all I'm doing now, I'm just having a few casts around the swim. The lake is pretty shallow and very silty, so being able to feel for a drop is pretty difficult. I'm not too bothered about feeling for a drop. The lake bed is pretty much the same all over, but what you have got is build up areas where there's bigger deposits of debris. So I just want to make sure I'm not fishing in one of those areas and that the rig is going to be presented properly. So I can find an area where I'm not bringing back leaves and stuff on the hook, but that's all I'm looking for at the moment. That rig in particular was an absolute nightmare. The casts had to be so meticulously, so smooth, had to watch the rig fly right through the air, control the lead and feather it and stop it just at the right time, otherwise it was just going to be in a mess. Another tangle, oh that's good. This is actually like knotted in a proper tangle. So I've just had a few casts around the swim, and pretty much every time I've been bringing back some sort of debris on the hook or on the lead, and pretty much every time it's been tangled as well, actually, which is always good. But there was one spot in particular where I managed to get I wouldn't quite say a drop, but it just didn't land quite as soft as the others. And that time when I retrieved, there was no leaves or anything on the rig. So I put the line in the clip on the reel, had another 2 casts, and both times it came back nice and clean. So this area does seem to be one of the few nice clean areas on the lake where it's mostly debris. Well, I was fishing originally out slightly to my right on that nice sort of cleaner area that I found, but momentarily the wind just eased off ever so slightly, and when the ripple dropped, I was able to see quite a lot of fizzing out to the left of the swim here in this big sort of open area where there's very little angling pressure. So although I found that nice spot there, fish were clearly feeding over to the left, so sacked that spot off, and I've put 2 rods just on single hook baits cast towards where I've seen the patches of bubbles, and the rods have only been in now 10 minutes and I'm getting liners pretty often at the moment. I mean, I hope the liners, and it's not this shoddy rig tangled and I'm getting done. What's going on here? Yeah, I think it's somewhat blown across. I'm playing a fish, mate. I wondered why you're saying hold on. Well, I've just had a really twitchy little take. Harry didn't think it was a bite. I think he thought it was another liner or something. I don't know what you thought.
I thought what you're doing, so I pressed stop.
Oh, never! No way!
I didn't realise that you were in, so that's why I said hold on.
So anyway, yeah, I'm playing a fish. That rod's been in the water. Well, that cast has probably only been, what, about 5 minutes, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've only really been fishing properly less than an hour, haven't we, really?
Yeah.
So if we land this, this will be a mega start. Oh, hello. 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 Oh, no. No. The net's all tangled. This is when you don't want to rig. I wasn't expecting him to pop up that easy. He just literally popped up, didn't he? Here he comes. That's not a bad fish at all, is it? Oh, there's that little tiny hook and that little tiny lead. Right, come on. Come on. Come on, come on. Oh, yes! What an awesome start that is. Just a single hook bait, cast to a patch of bubbles. 5 minutes later, we've got a proper chunky looking common in the net. That is amazing. Yeah!
I literally can't believe it. That's ridiculous.
It's a nice fish too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that could be a 20 pounder. Yeah, so we've been fishing about an hour. Wind just eased off slightly. Was able to see a few fizzes coming up to the left of the swim. Cast right on top of a fizz. 5 minutes later, fish in the net. I almost thought it wasn't going to be fish in the net. After I messed it up with the first attempt, I thought this is going to end badly now. It just totally caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it just to suddenly just give up and just pop up on the surface. It just a few little shakes of the head and then just give up. So, and there's still fizzing out there now.
What is that?
I think it's a condom. It's clear and... Oh no, it's just a bag. Well, I've just reeled in the rod that was down the margin while this fish is in the lander net, and while we're dealing with that one, I'm going to cast this to where the fish are fizzing out there in open water. Oof, and I got a drop. You're going to love this, in fact. I brought this along especially for this moment.
That isn't
Yeah, it is.
John Wilson waistcoat.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. John Wilson waistcoat, also worn, can't get it on, by Des Taylor in the filming of Carp Fishing with Des Taylor. Oh, look at that. I don't know if I can zip it up. I can't. I'll try. I was 11 years old when I got this. No, it's not going to zip up. Come on, if Des can zip it up, I can zip it up. There, it's on. Ooh, just don't breathe out. There we go. Yeah, I was 11. Since I was 11 years old. Bear in mind, it still fits me quite snugly. It was down by my knees when I was 11. It was like a dress. Look at that.
Yeah.
I particularly like the forceps that are on there. So if you fall over, you know you're going to pierce your heart and kill yourself instantly. So you won't suffer. So it's all right.
Did it come with the forceps?
No, I bought them. So my little forceps things there. used to keep me flies on there as well. I think that was a scissor pocket. So if the forceps didn't kill you, then your scissors would finish you off. Yeah. Look at that, it still fits. Amazing, isn't it? So yeah, can't wait to have my photo taken with this on. I reckon it's very close to a 20. I wouldn't like to say either way, to be honest. Let's have a lift. Oh yeah, I think it might go 20. I think it might go. £20, 8 ounces. £9 ounces. Hey! So we're just about to tell you about this fish I've just caught, and the other rod is away. So doesn't look like it, does it? So I'm just going to put this in the retainer in the margin, and I'll deal with this other fish if he's still there when I get to him.
This is just like Des Taylor.
This is just like Des Taylor. Oh, you go there. He's all right. You're okay in there, mate? Right. And yay! Don't appear to have a landing net set up.
You better set one up then.
Do you want to hold this?
No.
Oh, so you're going to watch me lose a fish?
No, I'm not going to watch you lose a fish. You've got to do it yourself. Do it.
Okay, if that's the way you're going to be.
You got a barbless hook on there.
Well, I'm not left with much option. Clutch is nice and tight. I always have 2 landing nets set up. I always do as well, that's a daft thing. Yay!
Ah, I was just about to say, if you land this, you pass the challenge, but you don't.
Counts for nothing.
You don't at all.
No,
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it?
counts for nothing. So yeah, 2 fish in half an hour, happy with that. It's kicking right off. So here he is, £20, 9 ounces, and what an incredible start to this challenge, especially when you think of the previous challenge where I blanked for 48 hours and lost a fish just to rub salt into the wounds. But to catch a 20 pounder so early on, I couldn't have asked for a better start. And really, when you think about it, all that's left for me to do now is catch another carp on a different tactic in the 46.5 hours of this session that's remaining. So I think this one is very much achievable. But what I need to do now is to slip this fella back, have a look at the other fish we just caught, and get these pop-ups switched over and get some different rigs on. So here we are, the second carp of this session. Slightly smaller, this one, probably 17 pounds, something like that. And although it counts to absolutely nothing, because it was caught on the same tactics as the first fish, I'm still really made up with it nonetheless. So having caught that first fish and second fish very quickly indeed, I just wanted to get the rigs changed over, because I thought this challenge would be wrapped up and in the bag very quickly indeed. Well, there's just one rod left in the water. Oh, hello. One rod left in the water. I just nipped back to the van to get a few bottom baits. Yes! That's a nice fish. Had to run back to the van to get some bottom baits. Left Harry in charge of the rods.
The rod.
The rod, yeah, the rod. And as I come back round the corner, I could see him playing a fish. I ran back over, and we've got an awesome looking common here. I think it's the biggest one so far. That's a nice fish. But again, obviously it doesn't help my cause in any way. All the rigs are all tied, ready to switch over to bottom baits. The other two rods are all set up with different setup. Just this one rod in the water, and it's rattled off with this awesome looking common.
Three running rigs with pop-ups.
Yeah.
3 bites. Now you got to take them all off.
Oh, it's so frustrating. It's working so well, but at least I know the area where the fish are at the moment, so that's one good thing. But it's going to seem a bit strange, really, taking off a tactic, a setup that's working, and switching it for one which I dare say will work, but while I'm catching it seems crazy to change. Have a look at that. 26.5 pound, awesome looking common. This has probably been the best start to a challenge ever without actually passing it, because this doesn't help my cause in any way. But you know what? I really couldn't care less. So I've just rigged up with the second setup that I need to catch a fish on in order to pass this challenge, and I've gone with a helicopter rig. Now most of the components here are what I would have used in the early 90s. There is one slight change, but I'll get onto that in a moment. But if you take a look at it here, it starts off, I've got a cut down rubber float stop there. It's just a normal rubber float stop cut in half and threaded on the line. Now the reason I've cut it in half is to improve the safety aspect of the rig. By that I mean that it can slide much more freely than a whole one or two rubber float stops like what I used to use. But if you wet the line, you can see it actually slides very easily indeed. So should you have a crack off or get snapped or anything like that, then that hook link can travel and it can move that rubber float stop very easily until it comes off the end of the line and the fish is free. Coming down from that rubber float stop, I have a hard plastic bead. Then I've just got a normal swivel. These days I would use a ring swivel for extra movement, but didn't really use them back then. So I've got a normal swivel. Now coming down here, I am using one of the tungsten line guard beads. Now obviously I wouldn't have used that back in the day. I would have just had the swivel directly onto the main line. But now, you know, again, the safety aspect of the rig, the amount of pressure that swivel is going to exert on that main line when you're playing a fish, then I just think it's just asking for damage to occur, which can lead to a breakage. So that's why I've got the rubber line guard, so that the swivel comes to rest over that rubber and protects the main line. Now I've got a hook link tied here from 8-pound Maxima, just a mono line, but the hair is a nice supple hair tied just using bait floss or dental floss as I would have used back then. The hook is a size 6 barbless hook, and I've got some shrink tube over the hook to create a line liner. Now the line exits the shrink tube from the side. I just pass it through with a sewing needle, and in doing so it helps the hook turn and it massively improve the hooking properties. Now these days you can kind of replicate that just by using a knotless knot on a hook with an in-turned eye. But back then it hadn't been invented, or if it had, I didn't know about it. The bait is one of my homemade specials, and it's kind of an imitation of the classic Tutti Frutti. Then I've just got a 2-bait stringer. I never used to cast out without a stringer back in the day. It used to dramatically reduce tangles, and back then I needed all the help I could get. So that's it, that's the finished setup. I think it looks really pretty nifty actually, and I'm hoping it's going to do the biz.
Why? How? What's the point?
Where's it gone? All right, I see your game. I see your game. Didn't want that branch, did you? No. Get off. All right, that is it. Got your mates to back it up now. Come here, you little... Right, you're starting to arse me off a bit now, though. Right, I'm getting in a mood. Get out there. Oh, still doesn't come out of it. How has it done that? What? Why? How can leaning a rod against a tree? It's like down to the trunk. How has it done that? How is that possible? That is right. Okay. Fine. Okay. Okay. Don't know how that's happened. How? Oh, there you go. Yeah. Right. That's fun. Now a lot of you watching this might be wondering, why aren't I using baits such as luncheon meat, peanuts, chickpeas? Well, you know, I started carp fishing late 80s into the early 90s. It wasn't the 1950s, and boilies were readily available. When I was picking up magazines, I was really influenced by the likes of Richie McDonald, who'd caught the 2 40-pounders from Yateley. And again, he was using boilies, and I really wanted to try and emulate that as best I could. So the baits I've got here, I spent the past few nights in my kitchen knocking up loads of different batches of bait, and this is just a sample of what I've got. The base mix itself is just made for a 50-50 base mix, soya, semolina. So I have here some strawberry flavoured ones, and after seeing Des catch all them fish in the video on Tutis, I'll be crazy if I didn't bring some with me. So here I've got some orange Tutti Frutti baits. Then I have some Scopex flavour there, and the ones that I've caught on so far, these are pop-ups, and they are flavoured with a blend of cream and fruit flavours that were available back in the day. Now I have dyed them a washed out pink, which probably isn't a colour I would have intentionally used back then, but quite a lot of my baits that I wanted to be red ended out pink anyway, so really it is kind of what I'm doing. And like I always say with pink, if it smells good, then it's good enough for me. That's probably a bit much, isn't it, to say? So that's it. You can see here the Scopex ones, the bag is almost empty. That's because I've put out a nice scattering over my right hand rod, and the hook bait I'm just fishing a a orange 2T over the top, so I'm kind of fishing a bright hook bait over some dulled down free offerings. It's a tactic that works well for me right through the year, so hopefully it'll work again tonight. I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to, aren't I?
Are you serious?
Well, this is the rod. I think it's a bream. I think it's a bream. The take was breamy. I think this is a bream.
You've literally just put bait over that.
I've literally just cast this out, just put some bait in. Put out quite a nice bit of bait as well. I think this is a bream. No way. Not a bream. That's only been in there 20 minutes, maybe. Just put out a nice spread of bait. The Scopex baits, and my orange 2T hook bait, bottom bait, over the top. I'm playing what I thought was a bream, but now I'm pretty sure it isn't. Could this be the quickest pass yet? Oh, left-hander. Yeah, I have, haven't I? So I'm playing this fish. The margin rod has just dropped back. So I've got a bite on the left-hand rod as well. Oh no. Oh, that left-hand rod's proper going now. There's nothing I can do about it yet though. So he came in like a bream. He's making up for it now, isn't he? He's proper going for it. Just realised I'm on an 8-pound hook link. Luckily the rods are nice and soft, so they do cushion absolutely everything. You can get away using lighter setup. But here we go though, here we go. This one for the pass. Oh yes. That's it. Oh, it's another nice fish as well. Oh, I'll tell you what, I better check on this other rod. He's fine there. I'm not sure if this fish is still on or not. Oh no, it's out. No, she's got a branch on instead. Oh no, he's here.
Funny nodding branch, that.
What is that? I don't think it's a carp. I'm not sure what it is. Oh, it is a carp. It is a carp, it's just a small one. Is it? Yeah. And... hey, double bubble! What a way to seal a pass. A double take, 2 fish in the net, and all wrapped up with about 40 hours to spare. Yeah, a little bit sort of shell-shocked, really. I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say. What happens normally? I have like some plan to make you have to do it all over again or something.
Oh well, shall we have a look at these fish anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we are, 19 pound 9 ounces, another immaculate common, and I'm a little bit lost for words, to be honest. I was feeling the pressure coming into this challenge, especially after the previous one where we'd failed to catch anything for 48 hours. And being my first trip here, I really didn't know what to expect. I certainly didn't expect a session like this. But yeah, 5 fish with nearly 40 hours to spare. So I guess there you have it. Challenge complete. There you go. So, what do we do now? Well, I'm not doing that again. I keep saying, trying to pressure me into that.
Well, I was thinking. Well, I wasn't thinking. I was hoping that you hadn't have passed by now.
Yeah.
No offence,
Yeah.
but because I've got you a bit of a surprise.
I've told you, I'm not doing that.
No, it's nothing like that.
Right.
I think that it would be befitting to celebrate your victory in this old school challenge to use a bed chair and a brolly that would have been around at the time you started carp fishing. So I've brought a bed chair with me, and I've brought an original 1990 Super Brolly.
Really? Right?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I
Great.
spent many happy nights in my youth sleeping on things like that. So yeah, if it means staying and doing another couple of nights like that, yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, my new Ultra Brolly and flat lighter bed chair would have looked out of place next to the rod pod and alarms and everything. So definitely, let's do it.
There you go.
Yeah, happy days.
Look,
Oh, there is a sleeping bag as well. That's at the size of my pillow. Really? It's not even a one-season sleeping bag, that is it?
That's an ex-army sleeping bag. Like
Yeah, there's a reason it's an X one and not a current one. What army uses that?
Oh no, it's British Army.
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I think I used to have one of these. No, I had the Ultra. I had the Ultra bed. Where's the thing gone for that?
I don't know, it's just gone.
What, did it not have one, or is it like fallen off here?
No, it didn't have one.
It didn't have one.
No, I got
didn't
it
have one.
with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's all bent, isn't it? Oh no, it's just on the slope. No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'm not fussy. So these spin round out the way, yeah, to stop you digging in your ribs, yeah? Oh, that'd be fine. That is a shocker, isn't it, really?
What? Right.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. It's just I've never seen a sleeping bag that small, but you know, I'm not moaning. I'm just saying I've actually never seen a sleeping bag that small. My boxer shorts are thicker than that. They really are. You're taking a piss a bit with that, like, but it's not even a one-season sleeping bag. Sleeping bag, warm weather, recommended for temperatures over 15 degrees.
I didn't even know it said that.
Well, it didn't, I just made it up, but it is. Bed, fine with. Brolly, fine with. No problem with any of them. Sleeping bag, have a word. Why am I doing this? I've passed the challenge anyway. I could go home now, I'll be alright. This brolly's nice heavy duty, isn't it? For them on there, was it? Right then. Here we go. Can't see. Is that about right? There's the water. Can't really see anything.
The bivvy was a original Super Brolly, an original from back in the early 90s.
The brolly, it's an awesome little shelter, that proper cosy, really sturdy. Love the brolly. Right, get in, stay in, there. Bed chair wasn't so keen on.
You just need to. You're making yourself a bit lopsided, really. That's all.
I'm making myself lopsided.
Yeah,
lopsided.
you need to come up the bed chair.
You know about my feet are hanging off the end. What do you mean? I've got to splay them. Now look, I'm no bed chair snob. No, I can't stay on that.
Why?
Because my back is on the floor. If that bed chair hadn't been broken, then I'd have been absolutely fine with it.
I actually owned almost an identical bed chair and it had one cam missing. I bought it for 20 quid. I didn't seem to have any problems with it breaking.
That broke. What happened then?
That didn't sound good, did it? That's all right. That's better. That's even better now. I like it now. Oh.
Because you've extended the legs at the end, though, won't
Well, if I don't, they'll be touching the ground, won't they?
Your legs won't be touching the ground.
They will be.
How?
Because it slopes that way.
No, it doesn't. It's a flat swing.
I'm on about the bed chair. All right then, okay. I feel like I'm having my spine manipulated. Yeah, that's not happening.
Why are you being so miserable?
I'm not being miserable. I just said I'd sleep on the ground. It'd be comfier. Hey, in the 60s they used to sleep on the ground. They were hardcore. I've passed the challenge. I don't need to be sleeping on this. You should be on this as a forfeit. Go on. It must be your turn to get the kettle on. The bit when I get up's the best bit. That bit there, when it really digs in. When it really pushes your spine through your rib cage. How does it get up? I literally can't get up. Right, let's get the kettle on then. Well, you get the kettle on then, I think. So I'm just cooking up some meatballs with intense spicy chili bolognese. And I've decided not to recast the rods tonight. The challenge is past. I don't need to catch any more carp. But I have put out a bit more bait on that spot where I caught that 19 pounder, which saw me pass the challenge. I'm going to let them have a free feed on that tonight. Then I'm going to start afresh in the morning. Tonight I really would like to try and get a good night's sleep, or as good a night's sleep as possible on this rickety old bed chair. And I'm looking forward to fishing tomorrow with no pressure and just enjoy being on the bank. I'm going to sleep in me bib and brace, aren't I?
Why?
Why? It'll be freezing, won't I? Oh, Christ. That is ridiculous. I can do it up, but I can't get up.
You just need to go further down the bed.
This needs to go farther up. Further down the bed? What are you on about?
Yeah, we'll push it up there.
Yeah. Oh, that's as far down as I can go. All right. Ah, there we go. There we go. I didn't want a full length sleeping bag. It's all right. I can't reach the thing to get it over my head. What was that? Oh, it's that again. I'm not getting out to sort it out. I'm just going to have to stay like that. I'm not getting back out.
Morning.
Morning. All right, youth?
Yeah. You?
Sleep well? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it wasn't too bad in the end. Not as bad as I was expecting.
No?
So, no, I got a few hours sleep.
Is that because that's not the bed chair you went to bed on? I can see the leg of a flat lighter there. That, what?
Look,
Why did you?
look,
So you just don't do these things in the spirit of it, do you?
it got to about 2:30. I was absolutely knackered. I'm not a bed chair snob. If you'd have given me a bed chair that wasn't broken, it would have been fine. But every time I rolled over, the back collapsed. So I could hear you snoring. I was freezing. That sleeping bag, I was actually warmer without the sleeping bag. How does that even work?
I don't think that's true.
It was clearly true. So it got to about 2:30. I went back to the van, put the engine on for a bit, got warmed up, and brought back my other bed chair and the sleeping bag.
I'm really disappointed.
Well,
That's just not. It's not
Well, what-
doing things in the spirit of it, is it?
well, what are you going to do? I passed, so you can't fail me, can you? So,
Well,
mic drop, dab. So, we're going home tomorrow. If I had another sleepless night, then potentially I could have fell asleep at the wheel, crashed and died, and it would have been all your fault. So,
how?
well, you know how. So, that's what I was thinking, health and safety, and so should you be. That's
No,
my.
but if you're tired, you shouldn't be driving.
Well, I would have been tired.
Yeah, so you shouldn't have been driving. That's your decision. I'm not making you drive.
No. Don't put this. Don't pin the blame on me. It doesn't work that way. So, and how guilty would you have felt? That would have been your conscience for life.
Nah.
Well, I think we'd have seen a different Harry Charrington. You'd have spiralled into a world of drink, drugs, and depravity because of what happened to me.
I doubt it.
Well, I don't know, but I do
Anyway.
know they are fizzing like mad on my spot.
Are they?
Yes.
So what's the plan for today?
The plan today is swap things round to how I would approach this if I hadn't had any restrictions or anything like that. So new rigs, new setup. Baits I'm probably going to stay the same with. I'm really happy with my hook baits. And hopefully we can catch a few fish. When I first started carp fishing, everything did seem much more simple. The rigs were certainly nothing complicated at all, certainly not by today's standards. And a lot of the tackle I used wasn't specifically aimed at carp anglers. I mean, my bed chair, for example, back in the day, my first bed chair was just a sun lounger with a sleeping bag from a local camping shop, which was purple and yellow. And you know, in complete contrast to that, you've got today where I managed to swap the bed chair that Harry gave me, the broken one, for a lovely, comfy, flat bed, which is probably more comfortable than the one I'm in at home, with a built-in sleeping bag, lovely and warm and cozy. And I've been sat on that on my mobile phone, plugged into a portable charging device, so I'm able to post photos on Instagram. Okay, welcome back to 2018. I've just rigged up the rods with my modern day setup, and as you can see here, it really isn't too dissimilar to what I was using yesterday. When I first started carp fishing, the rigs I used were very, very simple, and as I progressed more, I actually found myself using complicated rigs with more components than probably were necessary, and it didn't catch me any more fish. And in recent years, I've just found that by going back to the simple rigs that worked well for me before, continued to work well for me today. I've got this one set up on a helicopter rig. Now it is a very silty lake, and the reason I like using the helicopter rig is if that lead plunges into the silt, the hook link can travel up the line and won't get dragged into the bottom and compromise the presentation in any way. If we look at this setup here, although I had a rubber float stop on yesterday that could slide freely, here I'm using a tapered mainline sinker, which grips the line much tighter, but the flexi ring swivel, the ring swivel, can pass over that very easily. I've just got a tungsten rubber bead that just fits on the end of the sinker there, and if in the event the line does break or the lead gets snagged, then it easily pops off with a little bit of resistance there. Then coming down again, I'm using the tungsten line guard bead to protect the main line, so the swivel that the hook link sits on comes to rest over there and reduces the amount of pressure being exerted onto the line to reduce any breakages, well, eliminate breakages rather. So if you have a look at the hook link itself, here I'm using 25-pound Camotech semi-stiff, which is a coated braid. Yesterday I was using Dacron or a light mono, and I was having issues with tangles. The casts had to be very meticulous, very smooth. I had to watch the lead and rig travel right the way through the air to ensure they weren't tangling, and even then on the retrieve on a couple of occasions they were tangled. Obviously with a coated braid, with it being stiffer, it practically eliminates tangles, and also I think it offers much better hooking properties because it is quite stiff. When the fish suck in the hook bait and blow it out, it kind of keeps it in the mouth longer, giving the hook a better chance to catch hold. Like you can see there, it's wanting to arc away from the lead from the setup, so when you cast out it's wanting to push it away to eliminate any tangles. The hook, here I'm using again a size 6 barbless, but this is a wide gape beaked point. I do prefer that wide gape, and I think it helps with the hooking properties of the rig, having that wider gape. And the beak point, I think once it goes in, I think they have a real hard job getting it back out again. I've also got a little bit of silicone down the shank there, something I wouldn't have done back in the day. That's just to trap the hair in place. And I've just got a small amount of lead wire with a little bit of putty on, just to critically balance my homemade 12mm pop-up. I definitely wasn't going to change that. They've caught me a lot of fish this session, and I've caught me a lot of fish over the years. So that's pretty much it. It's a rig you will have seen me use time and time again. It's caught me lots of carp over the past 25 or more years, and although the components may have changed, the fundamentals have pretty much remained the same. You should see this pic I'm just about to upload to Instagram. It is off the scale. It is, I mean, the white border makes it pop, for one. If you ain't got a white border, what are you playing at? But it is so subsurface. It's gone right down to like the seabed, and it's gone subterranean down to the Earth's core. That's how subsurface it is. What else has been happening in the world of Instagram today? That's a nice pic. Hasn't got a white border though. Unfollow. The thing that's been bugging me lately, perhaps a little bit of my own fault, people getting the most random of random pets in photos now. Dogs with a done thing, yeah, you know, and then families and things like that. Get your family in. Yeah. Then now it's just total random pets, isn't it? But I did talk about this a few years ago, didn't it? But I think people have gone too far. Yeah, because now you're seeing parrots on the shoulder. Which is understandable if you've caught a carp called the parrot. Get your parrot on your shoulder. Yeah, acceptable. That's great. But parrots, pigeons, owls. What's wrong with these people? Why would they do that?
If there was like an animal that, out of any animal, what would you have in a photo?
Alpaca. Without a doubt, an alpaca. They are awesome. Giraffe sheep. That's them. They are epic. That's what I
That's
love.
more random than a parrot.
I don't know. Is it random? It's a good pet, aren't they?
Definitely.
They'd be a good sort of bivvy pet. They look all furry and fluffy. Good keep warm next to in the winter. They've got warm wool.
Company and a sleeping bag.
Yeah. They are one of my favourite animals though. Just the face. I think the faces are hilarious. I'm going to Google funny alpaca faces, see what it comes up with. Ah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't even know what you're looking at.
First one, look at that. See? Exactly. That's brilliant, isn't it? Who wouldn't want to take that fishing? There's one with a haircut like what Lewis Porter had as well. Look at that one there. That's awesome. Not so keen on that one. That's a bit.
Look, that looks like Joe from Carpology. It looks like nothing but fishing Joe. I'm actually crying.
I'm happy with that. That's another chunky common. Today's been a bit slower really than yesterday. Admittedly we didn't really get started till mid-afternoon yesterday. Today it's been much better conditions for spotting signs of feeding fish. It's been pretty still. Yesterday was a good chop on the water. You couldn't really see what was going on. But we haven't really seen any fizzing, any activity at all until about 15 minutes ago, and it just seemed to come to life. I'm just watching fish now fizzing all over the lake. So, although it's been a quiet start to the day, I think it's gonna kick off. I really do. Tootie power. So this is the 6th carp of the session and the 3rd over 20 pound, 23 pound 1 ounces. It's it really has surpassed all my expectations, and there's another 24 hours still to go. It's certainly been the best session I've had in a long time, and I've also got to remind Harry that you actually cast your rod 6 feet from where I caught this, and yet it preferred to go for my homemade hook bait. So if you would like some, they're available just for £1 each. So Tutti Frutti, not Tutti Frutti. This is my creation, my variation. Tutti Frutti, spelled T-U-D-Y-F-R-U-D-Y. Tutti Frutti.
So that's a bottom bait rig.
Yeah.
How's your bottom bait rig different from the pop-up?
It hasn't got a pop-up weight on it. That's how it differs. So it's a magical rig. Basically, it's a bottom bait, but put a little bit of lead wire on it, and it's immediately pop-up rig.
It's amazing.
Multitude of uses. You can either fish it with a bottom bait, pop-up. Oh, the first mirror of the session. And another one to the single 2D hook bait cast to a fizzing fish. So this is the first mirror of the session, just to mix things up a little bit. Nice long lean fish, this one of about 16 pound, and another fish that fell to the caught you. Still got you. Still got you. Oh, you're at it again. You're not going down. There we go. Start again? No. So yeah, there's another fish that fell to the 2T bottom bait cast towards some fizzing fish. That has definitely been the going tactic today. Well, I've had 3 fish today with both the right hand rod and left hand rod producing fish. Those were baited with 2T bottom baits, and the middle rod, that's been on the washed out pink pop-up, and that hasn't done anything at all today. But yesterday, it did my first 3 fish. It's weird really, because with it being such a silty lake bed with lots of debris, you would think that the pop-up presented just on top of it is more likely to produce fish. But if those fish are feeding in the silt, in the debris, then anything above it isn't going to be touched. I mean, different days, different tactics will work, or different presentations will work. It all depends on how the fish are feeding on the day. It's clear today that the fish aren't feeding anywhere like they were yesterday. There's been very few signs of fish fizzing. So, I mean, really, if that's the case, you would think something presented on top of that debris where it's nice and visual would do a bite, but that hasn't been the case at all. So I'm going to take this pop-up off, take the little bit of lead wire off, and switch over to a 2T bottom bait and see if we can improve the catch rate even more. So I've just recast that rod back to where I've caught that last fish from. And one thing that has been noticeable from changing over leads to the traditional bomb shape to the square shaped lead I'm now using, even though they're exactly the same weight, is I'm now able to feel a drop with the new leads, even though it's only 2 to 3 feet deep. Because the leads are a more flatter profile, they obviously fall slower through the water column, allowing me to feel that lead touch down on the lake bed. I'm not bothered about the camouflage point of view in this silty bottom, but being able to feel that lead down has enabled me to tell the difference between when the rig is landed in that real soft, mushy sort of leafy debris, or when it's in a nice sort of clean area and the rig's going to be presented better, like that one just has. Yes, that is a nice fish. I thought it felt like a lump. It wasn't quite as big as I first thought, but at 24 pounds 3 ounces, I'm certainly not complaining. This has been an awesome session. I'm running out of superlatives. I absolutely love this place, and right now I feel like I'm living out my childhood dreams. Triple dunk?
Go on.
That's a bit. Triple? He's in. Can't pull out now. Well, I'm gonna. Bosh. Ah.
Yeah.
Thrice the gingeriness. Must have been a session of many firsts for me. That, probably the most memorable one. Could it just happen? Quadruple? No. Don't be crazy.
God, I dare you.
No. No. I'm not going to give in to peer pressure. Go on then. That's excessive. That was uncalled for.
No, I didn't need to do it.
Choking on the gingeriness. Oh, half it's telling me, bro. That was a bad decision. That's really not. Especially when we're into it. Ginger nuts do improve a brew though, don't they? What's been the key factor in the success of this challenge has quite simply been the timing. Now the week previous to this session, the lake had fished very, very hard. It had been frozen for a few days, and when it thawed, it was very slow in picking up. But just a day before we arrived, we had a lot of rain, and had opened the sluice that feeds this lake from the long lake. And there was lots of coloured water feeding the lake we're fishing now. And having spoke to quite a few of the regulars, they say whenever that happens, this lake really switches on. And that definitely seemed to be the case.
You know, that's just fishing. You can hit it right, and you can turn up when they're bang on it, and you can chuck almost anything at them, and it'll rip off like what we've seen a couple of days ago. But if he had turned up today, I think he would have been at least 24 hours before he got close to passing, that's for sure.
Today we're leaving. We've seen virtually no feeding activity, and we've not caught anything at all today. So had I arrived just a day later, then I think we would have seen a very different outcome.
If I had thrown a spanner in the works, I think at the time it would have seemed really pathetic.
You know, I was fully expecting Harry to to throw in a few swerve balls to try and make it more difficult. But the way the session was going, I'm not sure what he could have done.
Could I have changed things there and then? Well, what could I have done? I could have changed the parameters. Okay, you've had a 20 pretty much first chuck. Okay, now both of the fish that you've got to catch have to be 20s. Well, he did that in no time at all. He's had 4 20s and 9 fish.
I don't know. I don't know what Harry could have done to make it more difficult.
People say, oh, you could have asked him to use potatoes and stuff, but that was never part of the challenge. It was all about late 80s, early 90s, and it was boilie fishing back then, early boilie fishing. So they're not, you know, they're not the same baits as what most of the companies are bringing out today, but they're, you know, they're still good baits. And Mark's rolled up things that were akin to what he was using back then, and they work really well.
The 2Ds in particular have really stood out on this session. For me, the texture was absolutely perfect. I want them to be basically a paste with a tough outer skin, just to ensure that I don't want anything hard, anything firm. They've only just had like a 20-second boil time. That will ensure that the flavours and attractors just flood out, providing massive amounts of instant attraction. And of the 9 fish caught this session, 6 fell to them, and they couldn't have worked any better.
Oh, he's over there.
Oh no. Oh, what's he done? Oh, what's
There we go.
Yeah, land it here. I can get one with a house in the background, so it will look more capé.
Capé?
Yeah.
You've got a bite on your right.
I can't have. You must have got me. Oh, I've got a bite. Ah. Hey, I've got one as well.
Here, give me the camera. I'll film you.
Hey!
Yes. Right, awesome. Yeah, it's nice. Right. Hey, double bubble.
A real cool ending, that, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I'm well pleased.
So it's been a bit of a weird end to a challenge, but it has been a weird challenge. It was passed so long ago that it gave us a chance to relax a bit, and Harry even got to put the rods out. But oh, for all those that always ask that Harry and I should have a match, well, this has been a bit of a match, hasn't it? Really?
No.
It has. And in the time we've both had the rods out, the score is 5-1 to me. So proper duffed him up. Didn't even duff him up off the next peg, duffed him up off the same peg.
Rubbish.
So if you're watching Rob Hughes, you know, if there's any proof that should be in the England team, that's probably it. So on that bombshell, I think all that's left for me to say is challenge complete a long time ago. See you next time.
Well done.
Cheers.